Hello and welcome to another episode of the Brandon Ramsey College Basketball Show. In today's episode, we are stepping into the film room as we like to do here from time to time, and we're going to break down one of the most intriguing players, not only on Kentucky's roster, but probably in all of college basketball going into 2025, 2026, and that is Otega Oweh. There's a lot of high expectations surrounding Oweh's second season in Lexington, and rightfully so. If you look back at kind of the trajectory that some recent older guys took in the SEC transferring from other places, you had Walter Clayton Jr., who was a second team All SEC performer, just like Oweh, his first season at Florida. Then he became an All American. You had Janai Broom coming from Morehead State to Auburn. His first year, he was a second team All SEC performer, became a two-time All-American. There's other examples. Here's what Mark Sears, being one who was a second team All SEC performer, became a two-time All-American. Otega Oweh, I think, is ready to take that next step, just like those guys did in their second season in the SEC. But there's going to be some things that he's going to have to improve on in order to make that leap. He's going to have to improve as as a shot maker, certainly from 3-point range. He's going to have to increase that volume really probably more than anything, because he did make 35.5% of his threes last year. It was just too low a volume for a guy that wants to probably become an All-American. He's also going to have to improve his playmaking. He was 62 assists to 56 turnovers. That's not a good enough assist to turnover ratio for a guy that has the ball in his hands as much as he does. He'll make it easier for himself offensively if he becomes a better decision maker and passer, and we're going to show some of that here in today's film room breakdown. Then also defensively, he makes some home run plays defensively, but if you really sat down and kind of graded out the film, he's not a great off-ball defender, especially he gets lost a little too often at times off of the ball, and it kind of seems like he has a tough time reading screening action and kind of figuring out how to get to his man. So we're going to showcase some of those things and ways that Otega Oweh here in his second year in Lexington can go from second team All SEC to some sort of an All American this year. And that'll be big for Kentucky as well. That is a consensus, top 10 ish team this year. But for them to really, step up and become that Final Four team that everybody in Big Blue Nation is clamoring to get, they're going to need Otega Oweh, or certainly somebody, probably to be an All American level player. And he certainly fits the bill probably more than anyone else. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here, and we're going to dive in to I have about 3.5 minutes of film cut up. We'll see how long it takes to get through. Hopefully not too long. We won't get into the weeds more than we need to, but I do think that we have some really good clips here to showcase A, what Oweh's really good at, but then B, some of the ways that he can improve in 2025, 2026 to become that All-American type player that Kentucky wants him to become. This first clip here is from the NCAA tournament, and we talked about it a lot towards the end of last season, this grenade action that Kentucky started to have a lot of success with. And the reason they have success with it, running it for Otega Oweh, is that defenders are conditioned and honestly told in scouting reports to go under a lot of screening action for Otega Oweh. So if this was kind of a normal zoom action out here on the perimeter, that defender is going to be told to go underneath that. So how do you combat that as an offense? Well, you start to set things lower and lower towards the rim, and that kind of turns into this grenade action where it's an off the block catch for Amari Williams. Lamont Butler still goes and sets the down screen just like it's a zoom action, but again, it's just lower as opposed to being out here on the perimeter. So when that Illinois defender, as he's conditioned to do, tries to go under, it's just so congested in here, because obviously you have Lamont and his man here. You have Amari himself here, his defender, and then there's just nowhere for this guy to get through all of that mess. So always able to curl it and then get downhill to the rim, where he's a very athletic finisher. So these are the ways that Kentucky was able to utilize Oweh. Despite him not being a great shooter, they were able to get him downhill to the rim by transitioning into some of this grenade action as opposed to the perimeter zoom action for him as the season went on. And something I would like to see maybe this next season is some sort of a counter to this grenade action, where as somebody, Jalen Lowe, sets this sets this down screen, instead of having to curl off of this, how about we just sort of settle behind one time, like run the grenade once, and then the second time run it, and then just have Oweh pop back for a 3-point shot. That would be that sort of next evolution of his game that would be really, really big for both Oweh and Kentucky. Now, these next few clips, you're going to see an area where Otega Oweh really excelled. And that was any time that he was able to reject and get and play along the baseline. These next few clips show him doing it to his right and his left with his athleticism. Anytime he can go to the baseline and sort of be one-on-one with his man, he had a ton of success. Obviously, against Oklahoma, he was the star coming back in Norman against his old team. This quick spin move there along the baseline, off at 2 feet to go dunk it for an and one. Anytime he's playing along the baseline, a lot of good things happened for Otega Oweh. Here he is once again, another and one, this time against Georgia, attacking the baseline. Same thing happens here. Gonzaga gets probably a little too high again for a guy that's not a great shooter. There's no reason to be jumping out here like that if you're the defense, but defenses make a lot of mistakes. Gonzaga made a little mistake here. Oweh reads and is able to go play along the baseline here, get past his man, and finish it at the rim. Those are the plays that made Otega Oweh an All-SEC player last season, and we're going to continue to need to see more and more of that. Obviously, teams are going to only scout him better and better going into next season. That's why when we get into some of these clips that we're going to show in a bit where he can make improvements, that's where he'll really shine. But still, the bread and butter is going to be him getting downhill and attacking the basket because he's so strong, so athletic, and good with those 2 or 3 dribble drives to the rim. So those last few clips where he's rejecting stuff and playing along the baseline, that still needs to be what really he's trying to get to on a game to game basis, because that's what he's best at. Here's just a quick little inside out. I mean, Western Kentucky's gonna close out short here, but he's just always still so athletic. He can beat it, but it's going to be interesting again when you talk about that 3-point volume, that 3-point shooting. If he can become an even better shooter, he's going to be in even more closeout situations, as you see here, and he's able to just get it directly in a straight line down the lane line, which is awesome. Straight down the lane line, off of 2 feet, athletic lefty finish. That's a big time move there from Otega Oweh. And then also, again, this is another area where becoming a better and better shooter is going to open up some cutting ability for him as well. Another area where he should shine because of his athleticism and because of the way that Kentucky utilizes their bigs as passers. Obviously, this is Brandon Garrison in this clip. It could be Brandon Garrison again this season. It could be Jaden Quainitz, certainly Mo Diabate, Andrea Yelovich. These guys all have the skill level to make this sort of a pass, and an area where Oweh should continue to shine. And one reason I like this clip, and we're going to use this over the next few clips as well, the patience that he shows at the end of this drive. Like, he could have gone up here as this defender cracks down on him. This guy's still pretty good on his hip. He could have tried to make an athletic finish, and probably half the time he does finish that because he's a really good player and super athletic. But I like him catching it, spinning back, getting to the midline, and turning it into a post move, something we're going to talk about here over the next, or certainly in some clips to come. Here's an example of an area where Otega Oweh needs to cut out some of these shots next season. There were far too many times, especially kind of in key moments, unfortunately, and it never, in my opinion, came from a selfish place with Otega Oweh. It was more that he wanted to be the man that helped Kentucky get over the hump. Here you see it's a 7-point game. You're down against Arkansas. It wasn't that Otega Oweh said, "Hey, give me the ball. I'm going to go do this from a selfish point of view." It was, he felt like he was the best player and he needed to do this at times, but kind of understanding situations and whether the defense is set and how it's set, I think will be big for him becoming a little bit more efficient on the offensive end and cutting out some of these shots where it's almost like he kind of decided he was going to shoot it before he even got the ball. So here, like, this is kind of transition, but honestly not really, because Arkansas is back and they're pretty well matched up here. Like, this guy needs to get to Ansley, but we've pointed it out here, and you're pretty well good to go. You don't beat Trevon Brazil off the bounce here. There's just no reason to take this shot. The defense is set. You don't beat your man off the dribble. There's 23 seconds, 24 seconds on the shot clock that's contested from the SEC logo. Those are just low percentage shots that you don't need to take. Now, I like the aggressiveness in theory. Like he's a good enough driver. He's athletic enough. There's nothing wrong with kind of trying to drive this off of Amari's butt and see if you can get all the way to the rim or see if you can get this guy to collapse and then kick it to Ansley Olminar. But none of those things really happened. So then you just need to live to fight another day, either spin and dribble it back out, or you can, dribble out this way. Whatever you need to do. We just need less of these shots next season from Otega. It always felt like it came sort of in a late transition. Here's a look at another one where the defense is set. His man is obviously on him. We're pretty well matched up here across the board from Oklahoma. Um, Again, probe in there and make a move. But now this guy steps over. He's right in front of you, cutting you off high above the SEC logo. Your primary defender is still right there on your hip, and you just drive it into a crowd and lose the ball. I think two things could happen here as a playmaker for Otega Oweh to improve. One, you probably just don't even really need to try to probe as much as this on this one. Like this is a pretty darn set defense. Like let's just run some offensive action here, hit Amari in the trail spot, get into a handoff, get into a zoom for Kobe, whatever it may be. But then you also have two other options, I think. If right here, and we saw in some of those early clips him do a very good job of playing off 2 feet, if he comes to a jump stop, like right here, you open up a couple things. Maybe Jeremiah Fears cheats in a little bit, and we can kind of throw a little drift pass here to Travis Perry for a three, which is obviously great. Or as this guy steps up, if you're playing off of 2 feet and you're right here, you can probably flip it back to Amari, who's coming down, and he either can get all the way to the basket, or again, you get Fears to jump in, and Amari's passing ability gets Travis Perry a three here. But when he just drive it into that crowd, again, it's like he already made up his mind that, hey, I'm just getting this thing to the rim. We need less of those plays next season from Otega Oweh. Here's another one. We already showed 3 clips in a row earlier of, hey, really, really good things happen when Otega Oweh rejects and gets to play along the baseline one-on-one. So again, I have no issue with him trying what you're about to see here against Clemson. Kentucky's running, some sort of a stagger action for Kobe, for Kurt Kriisa, whatever it would have ended up being here. And Oweh sort of breaks it off and just goes one-on-one with his man. That's a big part of this play, honestly, because look at all these Clemson defenders. They're so worried about all of this action, rightfully so, because you have all of these shooters over here. But Oweh doesn't beat his man. And at that point, instead of making this Euro step back into traffic and just, throwing up something that misses the hoop, you need to have the ability to, like, right now, feel, okay, I haven't beat him yet. So either A, I'm going to keep driving it to here and see if anything happens where I can maybe jump out of bounds and throw a drift pass to Kurt Kriisa. Maybe as one of these guys comes down, like maybe you get a cutter here sort of down the lane, or you can drive it down there and then, okay, I'm still cut off. Just come back out, live to fight another day, and see what's happening with this action over here. But again, instead, it's like he just made his mind up. Hey, I'm going one-on-one. I'm going to try to make something happen here. And then, oh, shoot, I got myself into a bad position. These next couple clips show some progress in other games of like how this could look if he had a little more patience, maybe slowed down a little bit and didn't just force it. We didn't see a ton of this because Otega Oweh, for all of his success, averaged 16.2 points per game for a very good Kentucky team that went to the Sweet 16 last season, and he was pretty efficient too because he really improved as a free throw shooter from 64.3% as a sophomore in Oklahoma, 77.6% last season at Kentucky. Those were major improvements, but we didn't see a whole lot of him scoring it off of probably call it 4+ dribbles, or seeing him score where he had to make multiple dribble moves in multiple directions. And I think that's going to be a big step for him as a playmaker and as a scorer this next season is Can he add more of that to his game? Because to be an All-American, like you're going to have to do more than make wide open catch and shoot threes, score some in transition, get to the free throw line, and straight line drive to the basket. You're going to have to kind of go get a bucket at times. And here against Florida early in the season, this was a pretty good example of him going and getting a bucket. He tries to reject it and play along the baseline. As we talk about, pretty quickly he gets cut off. All right, I'm going to use the ball screen now. They go onto the ball screen, so it's hard for me to get downhill there. So now I'm going to come back this way. All right, the little fake at least gets him into the SEC logo. But I like here again, he's playing off at 2 feet instead of shooting some little runner, fading away from the basket or whatever. He takes that contact, he settles himself, shot fakes, and then makes that little mid-range shot. Now, is that the quintessential 2026 efficiency shot? No, that's not going to win any awards. But again, to be an All-American, you need to have that bucket getter mentality where you're able to score some from here and that patience of multiple moves, changing direction multiple times, absorbing contact, using a shot fake, and scoring from there. That's that next iteration of Otega Oweh's game that's going to make him even better next year as a senior. And here's a play I really like from him against Vanderbilt as well. Along the baseline, Olminar slips out of the screen, gets it here along the baseline. Again, we love that. We love that. Gets cut off. Great. I don't need to panic. He keeps his dribble, flips his hips, and then we turn the drive into a post move. And that's something that I think can be huge for Oweh this coming season because he's strong, he's athletic. There's a lot of times where his defender is going to be giving up something physically to him. And you certainly see it here where Vanderbilt's guarding him with the point guard, and he's able to make a move here, get back off of 2 feet, absorb more contact, and finish. I think if that can be the patience at the end, think back to that drive against Clemson that we showed, or the drive against Oklahoma. Some of those drives that ended with him sort of making his mind up and throwing something to the rim. If you can turn those into post moves, and then at least you give yourself a chance to either live to fight another day, dribble it out, pass it out. But I like the scorer's mentality of like, okay, hey, like they beat, like the defender won the first or second move, but I still have move 3, move 4 to still go try to score it on you. I think that's where he can really, really excel. Now we get a look. Here's another one against Vanderbilt where his initial drive here, it was kind of going into a crowd. This could have ended up looking like that Oklahoma drive, where he just kind of drives it in there and loses it before it even goes up. But again, because he doesn't necessarily have a clear lane here, he doesn't necessarily beat his man, flip the hips, move to the middle, 2 feet, gets even by the secondary defender to finish. Didn't really turn it into a post move there, but the same sort of concept in terms of spinning back towards the midline, getting set off of 2 feet, feet apart, and going to score it. I really, really like those moves from Otega Oweh. Again, there are some slight shot selection concerns. We showed some of them earlier. Here's a 3-point shot that I just don't think you really. Oh, sorry, this is just one where he's losing the ball against Vanderbilt again because he needs to improve on those having to make the secondary or sometimes tertiary move. We saw it work here in some of these clips, but there was also too many times where a simple crossover or a simple spin move led to him losing the ball last season. And I think improving that ball handling, improving that ability to get to a second, third move or to a fourth, fifth dribble, I think will be really big for Otega Oweh because there's just no reason right here to lose the ball when you have an advantage against a defender that you should be able to beat one-on-one. Here's another clip from Oklahoma. This is one, again, the playmaking and kind of being able to read the play in real time, especially off of a live dribble, has to improve for Otega Oweh. I would honestly be fine if Otega Oweh turned it over more in 2025, 2026 if we see a more marked improvement in assists. Like if he can go, but last year he had 62 assists, 57 turnovers. If he can have 100 assists, I'm fine with him turning it over 75 times or something like that. I want to see him be of a playmaker. And I think that'll also, again, help him as a scorer because right now you can sort of just really collapse on him. And it's like, hey, I'm going to make Otega Oweh give this thing up because, quite frankly, I don't think he's going to. He had a pretty low turnover percentage last season when you look at KenPom because a lot of his possessions ended in shots, quite frankly. And a lot of those probably should, if you could really dive in and watch the film, you could probably add 15 to 20 turnovers to Otega Oweh's stat column last year if you counted some of his missed shots that were, at least in my opinion, for all intents and purposes, turnovers. And here's one where you can really see it. He has Brandon Garrison here, probably like for a split second. If he can whip this with his left hand, then he has a real chance. Or there's a couple other options here. You can probably try to skip it to Lamont Butler, or if you want to get it to Brandon Garrison and you don't have that left hand kind of whip pass in your game, especially with Jeremiah Fears playing safety right here, then you can probably, you might be able to get the sort of bingo pass here by hitting Andrew Carr. That probably brings Fears out this way a little bit more as being 2 passes away instead of 3. And then maybe Andrew Carr can get it to Brandon Garrison before this guy can recover. But now trying to throw this pass, moving to your left, back across your body with your right hand, like that's just never going to get it done. That's where that decision making for Oweh needs to improve. I think, yeah, here's another one where he's driving it and just sort of, again, makes his mind up. Hey, I need to go get a bucket. I am going to shoot this one way or another. Gets cut off. But like, look at this. You have a big time shooter right here. This has to be a pass. You have to be able to recognize the defenders crashing down on you. And especially, again, when you're Otega Oweh, you know people are going to be crashing down on you because you're a good finisher. You're a good driver. You're going to attract attention on your way to the basket. And I think that's where that next step goes next season, being more than just a scorer. Like, he averaged 16.2 points per game last season. He can be an All-American and have that go down this year. Like if he averages 14 or 15 points instead of 16.2, but still averages close to 5 rebounds, then maybe can go from 2 assists to 3 assists, improve himself as a defender, and once again be on a top 10 team. That's going to get him All-American honors. He doesn't have to go finish this shot. He needs to assist it there, or he needs to make a better decision at the beginning and, let's go play with Kobe Bryant over here or whatever it may be. But again, there's too many of these making your mind up beforehand sort of plays from Otega Oweh. Here's another grenade action. This time, this is a great play, and it shows like that innate feel is somewhere in Otega Oweh's brain. I think sometimes he just gets a little sped up or almost a little excited on the offensive end. Grenade action. They essentially switch it, so he's got 2 guys on him. He feels the big step up and pretty much throws a blind pass to Amari Williams that turns into a lob. That's what we need more of from Otega Oweh. One of the last things here, his shooting ability transitioning to next year. Definitely, again, some shot selection concerns from this. Again, it's like he kind of made his mind up, I think, earlier in the game in the same switch. He drove it on Tyler Nickel and ended up turning it over. He needs to not turn that over, and we showed that clip. But it also shouldn't then scare you the next time into saying, hey, I just need to shoot it. I mean, this is not a very good defender. This is a 4-man that's like 6'7", 215 pounds. You should attack him one-on-one, whether that means you score it or you find a buddy that's open. But settling for this three-point shot, that's not Otega Oweh's game. He's not going to make these off of the dribble. We don't need him making those off of the dribble. Now, this is where he did excel at times last year. Just straight feet set, hands and feet ready in the corner, catch and shoot. Big time pass by Amari Williams. Hands and feet are ready. Just perfectly in rhythm. 3-point shot. More of those are going to be good for Otega Oweh. It's 2 straight years now where he's shot pretty good percentages on low volume. Made 23s as a sophomore at Oklahoma at like 37+%. Last year, made 27 threes in 36 games at 35.5%. Kind of what I talked about with the assist to turnover. I'm fine with giving up even some percentage, honestly, to see that volume grow. I always talk about guys that can make 1 3 per game at 33+ 33.3% or more. So make 130 or threes. So if you see Otega Oweh for, technically this doesn't quite get you there, but if he makes 34 threes next year instead of 27 and shoots 100 instead of 76, like he would only need to go for 7 of 24 over those additional 24 shots, which is less than 30% to get to that mark. And I think those 7 extra makes are worth missing. So I would like to see him get to 35 to 45 made threes next season, even if it means he shoots 33, 34% instead of 35 plus. I think that's a fair trade when you're talking about the volume for Otega Oweh as a shooter. Now, here we're going to talk about his defense a little bit to finish out this film room breakdown. There's way too many times where he gets caught staring at the ball. Now, he's able to make some big time plays in the passing lane, which will show. He's able to make some big time plays on the ball, which will show. But off the ball, there were times where he was just completely lost last season. Here's a great example. This whole time, his eyes have been on the ball handler dribbling when he wasn't really even in the scoring area. He's just now making a move, even though he's completely cut off by Jackson Robinson. And Otega Oweh, at this point, has absolutely no idea where his man is at. How you see him for the first time, he tries to make eye contact with his man. Oh, shoot, he's not there anymore. Looks around. Oh, shoot, I don't see him there either. Now this drive is happening. Finally recognizes where number 4, Jeremiah Brakefield, is. It's too late. Takes a bad route, honestly, once again, and gives up a dunk and then throws his hands in the air as if it's somebody else's fault. This can't get lost like that defensively. Here's one, and this is probably Oweh's biggest issue, was guarding shooters and chasing them around the floor. It's 49 to 31. Any Kentucky fan watching this video remembers this game. I'm going to guess that Matthew Morrell already had hit at least 2, maybe 3 threes at this point in the game. So, going into the game against Matthew Morrell, you should be, tight, chase everywhere over the floor. But especially at this point in the game when he already made a couple, like I always talk about it, you should be scared to death of these guys even getting attempts off, let alone making them. And this is just inexcusable from a junior, now a senior, from Otega Oweh. First of all, this is too much space to begin with. When the ball goes out of bounds, right now, where's Oweh? Oh yeah, so Oweh's right here. This space should be completely closed. He should have his hands, because they allow it. He should have his hands essentially wrapped around Matthew Morrell right now. So he's already lost because there's way too much space right here. Now there's even more space. Oh shoot, let's get out here and chase him, or at the very least, and you almost can see Brandon Garrison looking for it, like, hey man, do we need to switch this? Do we need to switch this? Heck yes, we need to switch this. Get your rear end out here to the corner. But now instead of chasing it, it's like Otega Oweh went out of his way to run into the screen. Again, I'll back it up one more time. I apologize, it keeps going to this last clip. But from where he is here and here to not chase him, he really has to go out of his way to just run right into this. And then you give a good shooter, I mean, yeah, he has some effort and goes to try to, run at him, but it doesn't work. And gives up the 3. He has to get better, more disciplined as an off-ball defender this next season. Now, these next couple clips, this is where he excels. He has the athleticism to jump some of these passing lanes with the length, the physicality there at the point of attack. Steal, dunk, big time play. Against Louisville, same thing. Reads the one pass away, jumps the passing lane, steal, dunk. We're rolling. Against Clemson, on the ball here. Kind of gets out here to ice it or weak it towards the baseline, has the length to reach that left arm out there and tip it, steal, going the other way, dunks it on Clemson. One last point for Otega Oweh. He averaged 4.7 rebounds per game last season, which was really good for a guard, but he should be a really good defender. Honestly, he needs to be a better offensive rebounder, I think, in 2025, 2026. Easy way to maybe steal a couple extra free throws or steal a free bucket. He has the athleticism. He has the size to be a really good offensive rebounder, but that starts with just trying to offensive rebound. I'm not questioning his effort or anything. I would have to watch more film And I'd have to be honestly in practice to know what Coach Pope talks about in terms of offensive rebounding versus transition defense. But I think that there are opportunities still. If he just tracks the ball and goes after it, like you see here, he's going to get his hands on some of these for extra opportunities. So there we go for today's film breakdown of Otega Oweh. Ended up going about 30 minutes. I'm not overly surprised. I was hoping it would be a little quicker than that, but I think we covered some really, really good stuff there in this episode. So I hope you all enjoyed watching. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below and I'll get back to you. Also, make sure you're following me on Twitter at BRamsey. KSRs threw that up there at the bottom of the screen. Make sure you're subscribed to the Brandon Ramsey College Basketball Show here on YouTube as the season, obviously right around the corner. We're going to really get this thing fired back up and rolling into the season with what I think is going to be a really fun season of content on this channel. So again, subscribe to the Brandon Ramsey College Basketball Show here on YouTube. Go follow me on Twitter at BRamseyKSR. Make sure you like the video, leave a comment, and thank you all for watching.